In this video, we'll be hunting a box of nickels. We'll be looking for anything older than 1960, including Civil War nickels, buffaloes, or anything older. We'll also be looking for any foreigns, proofs, heirs or varieties, or any other cool things we can find. And I don't see any confirmed enders in this box, so we'll have to look for good finds in the rolls, and I'll bring you in when we have our first find. First roll, and we already have the first find at the box. Hopefully it's a good sign, but it is just a 1959, minted in Denver. Next roll, another find from the 50s. This time it is a 1956, minted in Denver. Roll 3, and once again we have a find from the 50s. This one is a 1953, minted in Denver. Roll 4, and once again another find from the 50s. This one is in pretty nice shape though, although it's just another 1959 Denver. Roll 5, and it's getting kind of crazy at this point. We have 5 rolls in a row. Each one of them has had a single nickel from the 50s. This roll had a 1958 Denver. Roll 6, and this time we have our first nickel from the 40s, and this one is a 1946 from Philly. Roll 9, and once again we have the third 1959 Denver minted nickel of the box. Roll 7, and of course once again we have another 1959 out of Denver. And something I've noticed about this box is I've not seen a single coin newer than 2018, so this box is probably a few years old at least. Doesn't mean we'll get anything good, but hopefully it's a good sign. Next roll, hunting through the roll, just uncovered the first foreign of the hunt. Didn't see it because it's a little bit corroded and damaged, but it is a Canadian nickel, and it is a 1984. Roll 19, and we have a couple more finds from the 50s, and they are a 1957 and a 1959, both from Denver. Next roll, yet another find from the 50s. This box is pretty loaded with 50s finds so far, and this one is another 1953 Denver. Roll 23, yet another find from the 50s. This one is 1956 from Philly this time. Roll 25, halfway point of the box, and we finally have 40s nickel number 2, and it is 1948 Philadelphia. Roll 27, and we have the new oldest nickel of the box, and it is 1941 out of Philly. And the nickels are getting older. Hopefully that can continue. Next roll, and the nickels are still getting older. This time we have 1940 from Philly. Roll 31, and we're back on another find from the 50s. And this one is 1957 Denver. Next roll, and just like the last roll, we have yet another 1957D. Roll 33, and I just uncovered the best find of the box so far. Didn't catch the light right at first, but I thought it was just a new coin, but I flipped it over, and we have a proof nickel. 2000 San Francisco proof. Definitely circulated. A lot of the proof finish is gone, but hopefully that cloudiness will wipe away, and it will look better after I wipe it off. Don't get proof nickels too often. That is a great find. Roll 37. I don't know how many of these we've got, but we've got a lot of them in this box. Yet another 59 Denver. Roll 39. Another nickel from the 40s. This one is 1940, but this one is the San Francisco. Roll 40. A couple more older Jefferson finds, and they are 1948 Philly and 1958 Denver. Roll 44, another find from the 40s. This one is 1949 Denver. This nickel box has been hunted, and it was an okay box. We got a few from the 40s, and definitely a lot of nickels from the 50s, and one Canadian nickel. And the best find of the box is probably this 2000S proof in pretty much average condition, definitely circulated. Since this box didn't have any silver, buffaloes, or anything too great, I'm going to be adding another box onto this video. I do not have a box right now. Hopefully I'll be able to get another circulated box of nickels to add onto this video, and I'll bring you back when I have one. Alright, I am back, and I do have another box of circulated nickels to add onto the video. And we do have one under in this box right here, and it is a 1954, but hopefully that's a good sign for the box. So let's start the hunt, and I'll bring you in when we have the first find for box 2. Roll 6, and we have the first find of box 2, and it is from the 40s, 1948, minted in Philly. Roll 8, and we have another find from the 40s, and this one's pretty dirty, but I'm pretty sure it is 1941 from Denver. Roll 16, and we finally have the first 50s nickel for box 2, and it is 1952 out of Philly. Roll 21, another find from the 40s, and this one is a 1949, minted in Denver. Roll 23, and just like the last find, we have another 1949 from Denver. Roll 27 was that 1954 ender. Nothing else in the roll, but the 1954 ender is out of Denver. Roll 31, a couple more finds in the 40s, and they are 1947 from Philly and a 1949 Denver once again. Roll 32, I have already pulled out a 1959 out of Denver, but near the end of the roll, look what I found. It's a 2000D. That's a pretty bad misaligned die. You can see it struck a lot to the right, and the reverse is perfectly centered, so that's how you know it's a misaligned die and not an off-center strike. Usually not too much value in these, but this one is one of the more major ones I've found, and that's a pretty cool find. Roll 35, another find from the 50s. This one is a date I don't see too often, a 1951 out of Philly. Next roll, and we have another nickel from 1949, but this one is from Philly. Next roll once again, a couple more finds. This time we have 1940 Philly and another 1954 Denver. Roll 39, yet another find from the 40s. This one is 1948, minted in Philly. Roll 42, once again, we have a couple more older Jeffersons. This time we have 1941 Philly and 1954 Denver. Just open the next roll, and we have the first foreign of box 2, and it looks like it's going to be a Canadian cent like usual, which it is, a Canadian nickel from 1985. Roll 45, yet another nickel from the 50s. This one is 1958 Denver. Roll 47 had a few more 50s nickels, and they are a 1953 from Denver, 1956 also from Denver, and 1959 from Denver again. Second box has been hunted, so let's go over the finds. We ended up with 29 estimates, which is definitely more than we normally get. We did get 2 foreigns, both Canadians from 1984 and 1985. And in the last few rolls of that last box, pulled out this odd 1995 with someone intentionally damaged around the rim, but it looks pretty cool, so I'm going to keep it. And then the majority of the finds of the hunt were, of course, the older Jeffersons. We got a lot from the 40s and from the 50s. Unfortunately, no semi-key dates or anything, but we did get a pretty nice 59D, which was probably the best find of all these older Jeffersons. And then a couple other miscellaneous finds. We did get that 2000 S proof out of the first box, which was probably the best find of the hunt. Or maybe the best find was this 2000D misaligned die. Pretty significant error. You can see that the obverse is definitely struck way to the right. Unfortunately, no silvers or buffaloes. I've noticed that it's been getting harder and harder to find either of those nickels. I used to get about 1 silver a box, but definitely been harder to come by lately. Either way, though, this was still a good 2-box nickel hunt.